Waiting on that baggage. She acting her ass because she knows she can ready to go somewhere she don't want to go. Ain't no more drugs left. The manager, Dan, is like, let me hurry up and get this bitch to the rehab before I choke her because she throwing a fit. Wham, wham, what the baby gonna do? Oh, my life. Hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and tip your favorite narrator via Cash App at $NayRob on YouTube. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes you, can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue reading Miss Natalie Cole's Angel on My Shoulder. My mother was starting to get a grasp on what was happening to me. She wanted me to clean house and rid my life of certain people who she felt were aiding and abetting my drug habit and were profiting while I was going down the tubes. The number one head she wanted to roll was that of my manager, Kevin Hunter. Isn't that funny? Isn't that Wendy Williams' ex-husband name? My mother had never liked Kevin, and the feeling was mutual. Kevin and I had worked together for 11 years, and there is no doubt that he was the most important person in the early days of my career. He introduced me to Marvin and Chuck. He was absolutely instrumental in getting me signed with Capitol Records when everybody else had turned me down. He advised and protected and helped me in many ways. He had tried to get me away from drugs. We had been through a lot together. He had been a good friend. But as I had grown more successful, Kevin had grown more abrasive and imperious in his dealings with people in the business. Okay. Don't that sound like Wendy Williams' husband? Or Joe Jackson? Or Mickey Howard's husband? How do they get that way? How does that happen? Like, you got a whole act right here. Why are you acting a jackass? At the moment when I was messing up the most, he seemed to be more interested in being important than in helping me. Yup. That sounds like Kevin Hunter. With a lot of emotion and uncertainty, Kevin and I parted. With Kevin out of the picture, my business manager, Ralph Goldman, suggested that I talk to a friend of his named Dan Clary as a possible replacement. Before Dan came on board, I had been working on an album called I'm Ready. Girl, that thing was terrible. Not my words, but hers. Before Dan came on board, I had been working on an album called I'm Ready, and it already had all the early warning signs of a disaster. Capitol had dumped me when the Happy Love album did not do numbers. So I went to Larkin Arnold, who had moved to Epic Records. Of course, he knew that I was in bad shape. He just didn't know how bad. As I was trying to record the songs for this album, my voice was not what it was. On top of that, I just couldn't keep it together. Sometimes I showed up late to the recording session. Sometimes I didn't show up at all. Sometimes I showed up and did the old lock myself in the bathroom for hours routine. It was a nightmare for everybody. By that time, the company was having a hard time finding good people who wanted to work with me. Hell, truth be told, they were having trouble finding anyone who wanted to work with me. Stanley Clarke, a wonderful jazz musician and producer, had the thankless task of producing this mess. On the morning of August 13th, 1983, I appeared on Good Morning America and sat there glassy-eyed telling the host, David Hartman, how wonderful it was to be free of drugs. That lady said she was sitting there high as booty coo. Lying. She's sitting there across that man talking about her struggles as an ex-addict girl. Wow, high as shit. I was forced to learn and to relearn the meaning of life, and I never had that happen to me before. I haven't done anything wrong to anyone. That is what's so great about being able to sit here and talk about it. I've done all the damage to myself, and I came through. How arrogant I was, and how incredibly dumb. Yeah, because the audience is looking at you high as shit, girl. We looking at you. We see you. Like, I could imagine myself sitting next to my grandmother, just not even being aware. I don't even know what high is, okay? But I can imagine myself not being aware of the fact that my favorite singer, or one of my favorite singers at the time, is getting interviewed super high. Wait a minute, Good Morning America. I'm not at home. I'm in school. But anyway, I can imagine if I was home, not even aware of the fact that she's super duper high, while my grandmother is sitting next to me going, Look at that child lying like that. It's amazing my nose didn't start growing right there on national television. The fact is, I had been up the entire night before, smoking my brains out. This is one of those film clips that refuses to die. It is a haunting reminder that follows me everywhere, even all these years into sobriety. To this day, I cringe when I see it. So let me say one of my most cringy moments in time. Taking it back to when I had braces. Child, thinking about that brace breath and how I used to blow it in people's faces. Oh my God. It's something about brace breath, y'all. It's like dead animal. Like, if you don't know how to properly take care of your braces, and in the beginning I didn't understand how important flossing was. Woo, girl. One evening in November of 1983, my doorbell rang. 3 men in dark suits arrived unannounced. This is a drug user's nightmare. Narcs, FBI, Jehovah's Witnesses. Peering out the door, I recognized my manager, Dan Clearly, my business manager, Ralph Goldman, and my attorney, Jeff Ingber. I assumed it was a business call, but not this time. They sat down in my living room and got right to the point. Dan spoke first. Natalie, we really care a lot about you, and we're afraid that you are going to lose your life. We don't want that to happen. Ralph and Jeff added similar words of care and concern. They didn't threaten. They didn't raise their voices. They just talked sense. And for the first time in years, I listened. Dan said that there was a place in Minnesota, that Kitty Dukakis had told my mother about. The plan was that after Thanksgiving, I would go to the place called Hazelden. I had never heard of it, but it was about to change my life forever. Anyway, she on a plane complaining. ran into the bionic woman, you know, and line. The bionic woman like, hey girl, what you doing? What's her name? Lindsay Wagner. Hey girl. Hey Natalie Cole, what you doing, girl? Why you going to Minnesota? Oh girl, I'm just going on a retreat, girl. What you doing here? Well, I got some work to do. I didn't want to just go quietly into the night on this trip. And you know, I had to have a little something to fortify myself. Hey, old habits die hard, real hard. The flight was horrible. And who should we run into on the plane but an old friend of mine, Lindsay Wagner, the bionic woman. That's all I knew the bitch did. I'm like, what you doing hanging out with the Natalie Cole? Did the Lindsay Wagner have a problem with the booger sugar? Or the juggy, or whatever? She was going to Minneapolis to work and wanted to know what was I doing. She looked at me real strange when I told her I was going for a little R&R, just sort of hang out for a while. Yeah, right. On the ice-covered prairies? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You ain't fooling nobody. Everybody know your ass out here doing the drugs. Natalie waiting on their baggage. She acting her ass because she knows she can ready go somewhere she don't want to go. Ain't no more drugs left. The manager, Dan, is like, let me hurry up and get this bitch to the rehab before I choke her, you know, because she throwing a fit. Wham, what the baby gonna do? I don't want to go to rehab. I don't want to stop doing drugs, and y'all making me do something I don't want to do. But finally, Dan dropped her ass off. Here, take this bitch. I can't tell you much about how I spent my first few days at Hazelden, but I can tell you this. God has a way of putting a hedge around his children. You can't get out, and no one can get in. He knows how to get our attention. You will have to deal with him sooner or later. My God. The truth. But for someone like me, stubborn and hard-headed, it was just my nature to fight like hell and resist the inevitable. And you couldn't tell me nothing because I was still trying to swim upstream in the river called denial. I wish I had a picture of what I looked like when I first got to Hazelden. I was very thin, nearly emaciated, and my skin had taken on a greenish hue. My hair was dull and brittle. I spent about 3 days in detox. By the first morning I was there, the drugs were out of my system, and I had a mean headache, but they wouldn't give me so much as an aspirin. The detox area was located in a separate section of a rather large building. Other than that, it was a week before I really took notice of my surroundings. My fellow patients were a mixed group of people from all walks of life. We were not allowed to mingle with anyone outside our section. This was called fraternizing, and it was strictly enforced to help protect patient privacy. I was not the only black person, but at the time I was the only entertainment person that I knew of. There were other famous folk, mostly athletes and sports figures. But since we weren't allowed to fraternize, I didn't really get to know them. Of course, some people did recognize me, but thankfully, it was not an issue. It was important that we all feel safe without having fingers pointing at us. There was a woman there named Joanne who ran the dorm. She was real tough and a recovering addict, as were most of the counselors working there. 3 things I learned while I was there. Number 1, they don't take no mess. Number 2, they've been there, so they know all the tricks. And number 3, they're some of the most wonderful people you'd want to meet. But you have to get by numbers 1 and 2 before you find out about number 3.
Oh, my life.